Gardeners often believe that compost is the only way to revive dead soil. While compost is valuable, it is, a bit slow. It can take months to fully break down before your soil sees results. But there is a faster method, one that wakes up the soil in just 15 days without the need for chemical fertilizers. The key is using fresh green materials in the right balance with carbon-rich matter to fuel soil microbes immediately. This rapid infusion of life is not just theory. It works in backyards, raised beds, and even compacted patches that haven't grown anything in years. The secret lies in feeding microbes directly instead of waiting for compost. The main reason this method works so quickly is because it skips the waiting stage. When you add finished compost, you're delivering stable organic matter that improves structure, but the microbial activity is slower because most of the food is already consumed. When you add raw green material like grass clippings, weeds, or kitchen scraps directly to the soil and balance them with dry brown matter, such as shredded leaves or paper, you provide fresh energy. Microbes multiply instantly, releasing enzymes and organic acids that loosen compacted particles and cycle nutrients. Within days, the soil temperature rises slightly. The smell shifts from lifeless dust to earthy richness, and you can see worm activity return. The right balance of green and brown material is really what makes this succeed. The mistake many gardeners make is dumping greens into the soil without enough carbon to stabilize them. This, unfortunately, creates a sour anaerobic mess. The correct ratio is about 2 parts fresh greens to 1 part browns by volume. For example, if you collect 2 buckets of grass clippings, just mix them thoroughly with 1 bucket of shredded dry leaves or torn newspaper strips before layering it into the soil. This honestly ensures that microbes have both nitrogen to fuel growth and carbon to build structure. The mixture breaks down in place, turning into humus faster than a traditional compost pile. Trenching or layering is, honestly, the easiest way to apply this method. You don't even need a separate compost system to do this. One of the most effective techniques is the trench method. Just dig a shallow trench, about 6 inches deep, right in the area you want to restore. Then lay down a layer of greens, about 3 inches thick, and cover that with a balanced layer of browns. Top it all with 3 inches of soil and, water it well. In about 15 days, microbial activity will be at its peak, and the trench will have transformed into a strip of living soil. You can repeat this in parallel rows to rehabilitate an entire bed if you like. Another approach is sheet layering, where you simply spread greens directly on the soil surface, add browns on top, and finish with a thin soil cover. This works well in larger areas, especially for reviving patches of yard soil that have gone hard and, sterile. Moisture management determines how fast the soil wakes up. Microbial life can only thrive in a moist environment, not a soggy one. After layering, water the trench or bed thoroughly until the materials are evenly damp but not waterlogged. Over the next 2 weeks, check moisture regularly. If the soil surface dries out, add enough water to keep it damp to the touch. If the pile feels slimy or smells foul, aerate it by loosening the top few inches of soil. The goal is a steady balance where the microbes remain active without drowning. With this care, you will notice a crumbly texture, returning quickly to what was once dead dirt. Worms and fungi are attracted within days. What makes this method unbeatable is how fast life comes back. Earthworms sense decomposing organic matter almost immediately and will migrate into the trench. Their tunneling not only aerates the soil but also leaves behind castings rich in nutrients. At the same time, fungal threads begin weaving through the mixture, binding soil particles into aggregates. This fungal activity is, absolutely critical because it restores long-term structure and moisture-holding ability to your soil. Unlike chemical fertilizers, which can, burn roots or just leach away, this natural resurgence actually builds a living ecosystem that sustains itself. Now, many gardeners are, honestly, surprised that planting can happen so quickly after applying this method. In as little as 15 days, you can sow fast-growing crops like radishes, lettuce or spinach directly over the revitalized trench. For heavier feeders, such as tomatoes or peppers, just give it 3 to 4 weeks to stabilize before you transplant. By that time, the initial heat and microbial surge will have settled, leaving you with a fertile, well-aerated bed. This means, really, you save months compared to waiting for a compost pile to mature before adding fertility to the soil. The difference between this method and fertilizer is honestly night and day. Chemical fertilizers might give your plants an instant nutrient boost, but they do absolutely nothing to repair dead soil. In fact, using them over and over often makes compaction and sterility even worse. The trench layering method, well, it feeds both the plant and the soil life, which means that every single season your beds actually get richer instead of poorer. You're not just applying nutrients, you're rebuilding the living engine of the soil itself. Gardeners who have tried this often report that crops grown in trenches of greens and browns outperform those grown in fertilized but lifeless soil, both in taste and in yield. Reviving dead soil is possible in weeks, not months. If your soil has been failing you, don't assume it takes years to repair. By directly feeding microbes with the right ratio of greens and browns, by managing moisture and by protecting the layers with a simple soil cover, you can transform sterile ground into a living, breathing medium in just 15 days. This shortcut does not replace compost entirely, but it gives you a way to speed up recovery, rebuild structure, and start planting sooner. Once you see the results, you will understand why no fertilizer can compete with the power of life returning to the soil itself. For more proven soil-building methods that save time and bring real results, subscribe to Soil Doctor and share this guide with other gardeners who want to turn dead ground into thriving beds. Together we can grow stronger, healthier gardens without ever relying on chemical crutches.